Teachers of Reddit, have you ever had a student try to seduce you? What happened? Serious, NSFW. I was regularly subbing in a pre-K classroom a while back. We were lining up after recess one day when a tiny round boy from the class popped up beside me and slid his hand into mine. I looked down and said, "Hi, Felix." He looked up into my eyes and said, so sweetly, "Miss Taconic, when I give you a ring, and when we get married, me and you and mommy and daddy will live together in McDonald's. Forever." When a tiny round boy, I'm just imagining a sphere wearing overalls with stubby little arms and legs and a tiny head poking out. I teach high school kids. I'm young compared to most other teachers at my school. I get loads of cheeky comments questions. The best one was, "Miss, I can't come to that detention you set me on Wednesday. I can do Friday though. My place?" I was a graduate teaching assistant, and I was meeting with an undergraduate student about a poor test grade, which wasn't uncommon as the professor often let students improve test grades. She came in wearing a tracksuit, the kind you might wear to the gym, not so much anything else that required modesty. The top was unzipped, displaying her impressive breasts, which were clearly meant to be on display. She stated she was willing to do anything to improve her grade. For one brief, glorious moment, a multitude of scenarios ran through my mind. After that one brief, glorious moment, I walked her out of my office and into the professor's office without saying a word. I don't know if she was seriously offering what I thought she was or if she just expressed herself poorly and had just come from the gym. I was in my third year of law school, and I wasn't going to find out. This is my father's story, so probably couldn't happen now like it did in the 70s, but at my father's high school graduation, the entire class knew of one student that had a crush on a female teacher. She had skipped a few grades and become a teacher early, so she was about 6 years older than him. At the graduation ceremony, the teachers were all lined up to shake each student's hand. This particular student went across shaking their hands, then planted a hand on each cheek and full mouth kissed the teacher on which he had a crush. It was considered a joke and everyone laughed as he received a light slap for the prank. Today the two are married with 3 children. Not the ending I expected. I'm a substitute teacher. I had a second grader put her chin on the desk with her hands on her cheeks, letting out a huge sigh with the phrase, "Mr. M, you are the man of my dreams." That's adorable. I'm fairly young and teach middle schoolers, so the most that ever happens is me catching them looking at my butt when I'm writing on the board or trying to look down my shirt when I help them with a math problem. It's really awkward for me, but I know they're in an awkward stage, so I don't call them out. Usually after I catch them they look away quickly and don't do it again. A girl once took my phone and put it between her breasts. I didn't know how to respond. I was merely an intern. Same girl put cute as evaluation of my teaching. Awkward. A friend had it worse. A girl went completely crazy over him. She started crying and crap. Explicitly told him she wanted to have sex with him. He tried to calm her down and talk her to stop crying. Didn't work. He had to get the principal involved in the end. Both girls were 15. My wife is a preschool teacher and one of her students tried to hump her leg. Does that count? Student taught in middle school band, and after a few months one of the clarinet players broke out of a pack of giggling girls to ask me if I had a girlfriend and what my favorite thing to do on a date was. She was so visibly nervous I felt bad for her. Gave me some flashbacks of my incredible awkwardness at that age. AWW, that's kind of really adorable. I teach elementary school, so I've never had a student seriously try to seduce me, but I'm a woman in my early 20s and sometimes a boy in my class will have a crush on me, and it will be hilariously obvious. A 5th grader once wanted to ask me if I had a boyfriend, but he had his friend do it instead because he was too embarrassed. How this suave bro in 10th grade was like, "Hey miss, do you want a kiss?" and offered me a Hershey's kiss from a bag of chocolate. And I was all, no candy in the classroom. So he said, how about a date? Kid legitimately had a bag of kisses and a bag of dates with him. I teach middle school, so I have had a few boys with crushes. One boy would use his lunch money and buy me a cup of coffee and bring it to me. Had to call home and it was a funny awkward parent conversation. Another boy would always tell his teachers he had lessons. I'm a music teacher, and come down to see if I needed help. Again, Had to send him back and talk to his parents. My first year, I was 23. I taught seniors. I always heard talks about how every girl at the high school had a crush on me, especially my actual students. Well, all year long I hear about how so and so has a crush on you and was always worried about being approached by one of my students once they started to turn 18 and coincidentally, not being sarcastic, I became single around this time as well. Well, all year long nothing really occurred other than subtle flirting until prom season started to rear its head around the corner. During class, one of the more popular attractive girls raised her hand and asked me randomly, what kind of car do you drive, and I respond, why do you want to know? I usually respond to dumb irrelevant questions during note taking because sometimes it may lead to a good example. I taught GovTCon. And she responds with, oh, I just wanted to know what kind of car I was going to get picked up for prom in. And I kind of react as if a huge tsunami wave was coming toward me and I'm trying to formulate my plan of attack. Just stand there and take the hit? Try to run away? Try to dive under and hope I can hold my breath long enough? Etc. So after a few seconds of students' laughter I respond, I'm pretty sure I am not allowed to take a student to prom. And she responds with, well, I'm legal so it shouldn't be a problem. And that's when the crap really hit the fan. Every single guy in that class had a crush on her and they start to laugh and holler, do it up, that's what's up, and so forth. I finally tell her once the class settles down, no, it's not appropriate. But if you really want to go with someone that works here, ask the principal instead. He'll hook it up with free entrance and pick you up in his stretchy yellow limo. Bus. The class busts out laughing and I quickly go back to the lesson. Honestly, that was probably the roughest 5-6 minutes of my life. I teach 6th grade now, so glad that isn't an issue now. Good comeback with that bus line though. I teach English at a language center, and almost all of my female students have either been my age or older. I'm in Kiev, Ukraine, so we're allowed to date our students, co-workers, etc. Need way more information? Op please. This happened to me several times with the same girl. She was constantly failing and at the end of the 6 weeks, would become flirty. Her biggest thing would be to ask if there was any way she could pass the 6 weeks and then press her breasts against my arm. I would ask her to get off of me and she would comply. Nothing came of it. She was a vile, disgusting young woman who I was continually repulsed by. I documented the incidents, reported them to my AP and principal, and asked that she be removed from my class, but nothing was ever done. The school I worked at was low performing and attendance was a huge issue, so they weren't about to suspend her. Yep, a couple girls tried that crap on me. Low cut shirt, touchy feely, I'll do anything for a better grade. Nothing happened. I just glared and said studying is a good way to get a better grade. I was a substitute teacher a few years back. One night I went to a party with some friends and ended up making out with a really cute blonde. A few days later I was subbing for a high school class and who should walk in but said blonde. She had neglected to say that she was still in high school and certainly didn't look it, so this caught me by surprise. I was hoping nothing would be said, but as soon as the bell rang her friend who she had been whispering to exclaimed, "You made out with the teacher." So much for subtlety. To make it worse, she was smiling and sending me texts throughout the entire class period saying, "You look really cute. When are we getting together again?" I never saw her again and nothing came of it, but it was about the most uncomfortable hour of my life. Yes, finally the chance to tell this. I'm a female high school teacher, and once during my second year of teaching, I was 24. One of my male students came in before school. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. He seemed nervous. "Sure," I said. He pulled a chair up in front of my desk and sat down. "I'm in love," he said. He then grabbed my hand and started to stroke my palm with his index finger. I yanked my hand back, and may have screamed at the same time. "I'm much older than you," I said. "It doesn't matter. I have a boyfriend. It doesn't matter. Leave, and go with me." Number. I finally got him to leave my room, and then immediately ran down the hall to tell the school social worker, my department chair, and every teacher friend I had just so I couldn't get nailed on it later. It was not the most serious seduction attempt ever, but it took me by complete surprise and was probably the most awkward conversation of my life. And, as a teacher, I have a lot of awkward conversations. Most people don't realize if a student actually comes onto a teacher and they get caught, it can ruin the teacher's life and career. When I was student teaching, I don't ever remember getting hit on or anything, but I do have a related story. One day we had a field day, that is not innuendo, after exams. 98% of my students passed, by the way, and I walked up to a group of girls from my 9th grade history class. One girl was a crazy one. She once told me during lunch in the cafeteria that she was going to fart in class. She lived up to her warning. Anyway, I walked up to the girls and the crazy one asked, "Mr. S, have you had anal sex?" The question surprised me, obviously. The other girls laughed. They were all in on it. My guess is that they wanted to ask me a really weird question just to see what I would do. It was one of those instances that you can't have been taught or trained how to deal with. You just have to experience. Luckily, I do my best thinking on my feet and I responded with what was probably the best answer. I said, "That is an inappropriate question, but if you want to talk about that sort of thing, you should ask your parents." All the girls were grossed out. The lesson to be learned here is that if you want to get kids to stop talking about sex, remind them that their parents do it. I've seen some female teachers get hit on. My room neighbor said she wrote a kid up for telling another that he'd do her. I had a student, good looking girl, definitely knew her looks were an asset. She came up to my desk during work time. "I have a 70%. You do? Yeah, you didn't know. I didn't care." She was a pain in the ass and I'm not afraid to show it. "I definitely deserve a B." Leans forward with hands on my desk. "You do." 7-second silence. Me staring with disdain. "Go sit down and get it." I had a troublemaking student last year who was a constant thread of annoyance. One of the things I do when I'm trying to refocus a student when they're acting a fool is to stare at them and give them a WTF kind of look. Usually works. Well, one day this student decided to confront me about me and my looks after school. Hearing one of her friends show up at my door. As a policy, I don't speak to students alone, so I bring my neighbor into the room with me. "Why do you always look at me funny?" "I don't always look at you. You're a student in my class. I have 27 other kids that need my attention as much as you." "Well, you always give me a look like this." Slightly sexual take on the WTF face. "Well, if I'm giving you a look, it's probably because you're not on task and I'm trying to get you on task without calling out your name in front of every." Her friend starts laughing. She looks rejected. "Well, my mom said if she ever saw you, she would cut you out." Student slams my door. Me and my neighbor have a little giggle over the girl's first heartbreak, and then write a report. Go to love middle school. I've been teaching for a few years. I'm young and not hideous, so I get a lot of come-ons. Though to be honest, they're more sexual harassment than come-ons, intended to embarrass rather than seduce. But one boy in my class keeps hanging round my room at break and lunch and asking for books and plays in French to read. I think he might have a crush. He told me my eye makeup was pretty today. It was. Conversely, I had a teacher in school who tried to seduce me. He once told me in class I has a husky voice and would be well suited to working on a phone sex line. What a guy. I'm not a teacher, but I had a year-long crush on my 11th grade band teacher. We chatted on ICQ and I sent her so many flirty pictures and messages. She was around 28 and lonely in a rural heck. I remember her once saying, "I only wish you were at least 22. Such a shame." She couldn't stay the entire school year because of the terrible pay, but I helped her move out of her place after she resigned. She made me chicken nuggets and we slow danced it around on that last day I seen her. It was nice. Glad I got to say goodbye. Not a teacher, but when I was a high school freshman, 2 girls I knew deliberately seduced a teacher in order to get him fired. It was a fairly elaborate plot that took place over months. The teacher ended up resigning. The girls were 13 and 14 years old. The teacher was in his mid-30s. You've been visited by the swinging thick boy. Like and comment swing well thick boy and you'll be blessed with many thick woofers in your life. If you're new to the channel, subscribe or don't. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.